So let's talk about conflict. Anyone here have conflict? I'm sure if you're like us, you do. It's inevitable in life that we're going to have disagreements. Maybe it's with your spouse, it could be with your kids, with coworkers, with friends, with family, pretty much anyone we come into contact with. There's the potential for conflict. So what do we do about that? Are we going to let conflict destroy our relationships? Or are we going to try to find ways to resolve conflict and keep our relationships intact? Maybe even make our relationships stronger from resolving conflict.
Yeah. Seems like there's a couple different ways that we get into having conflict with each other. One would be just that somebody doesn't feel heard. So you're trying to voice your opinion and one person feels like the other is not hearing them. What would you say to that? Is there something we can do? Like if it were you and me, what would you want me to do if you didn't feel like I was hearing you?
Well, to listen to me.
Yeah, that's a good, good starting point.
Sometimes we just need to have a conversation in which we do our best to remain calm and just express, I don't feel heard in this situation. Can we sit down and take some time and really give each other a chance to listen to one another? We've had one of our mentors give us the straw, or you could use a stick.
Since
It
we're
doesn't
outside,
really
we'll use
matter
a
what
stick.
it is. So when you're holding the stick, you get to talk and the other person has to listen. And then you give them the stick, the straw, it doesn't really matter what it is, and they have the chance to talk. And you can't say anything if you're not holding the stick, the straw, or whatever the object is. So those are ways that you can, just a tool if you're having trouble not talking over each other and taking turns and truly listening to each other.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And if it sounds silly, kind of like a child's game, well, I guess so. But we have had times where we have had to do that to get our opinion out, because what will happen is, well, I can't speak for Claire, but I know what I will do sometimes when she's talking. If it's something I'm uncomfortable with, I will assume where she's going. I will.
We do. We create
yeah.
a narrative. We finish the
Yeah.
story before someone even expresses it. We use things that we think, thoughts that we have, experiences we have to fill in any blanks or to really not even hear what the other person is saying at all. We've already written the script and that's all we're hearing, regardless of what the person is actually saying.
Yeah, so this can help if that's a problem. Now, in this same realm, not feeling heard, there's something else that you said a second ago, and I want to come back to before we move to another topic. And that is, you said that you want to explain how you feel. And that's really important because feelings are things that are legitimate. It doesn't matter what I feel, it's legitimate. So
Sometimes he tries to tell me that my feelings aren't legitimate, but now I know they are.
So you can't argue feelings. And so it's when you're trying to share share your side and you feel unheard, a good way to break through some barriers is to not do accusations or you're this way, you're that way, we never do this, we always do this. Because none of that may be accurate, but I can say
It's almost never accurate when
Yeah.
you put absolutes on anything.
Yeah.
Very few people are that consistent in anything.
right. But I can say I feel like we aren't whatever. And that's legitimate. And then the other person can hear that and either get defensive about it or do the productive thing and ask more questions about what is leading their partner to feel this way. And then maybe there's something they can work out. So it may very well be that the partner who hears this has been working really hard on their relationship. So they're totally confused as to why their partner would feel like they're not close right now. And but there's something there, so they can work it out. So that's all kind of in the first realm. If you're not feeling heard, find a way to listen to each other, even if you have to use the straw or the stick and pass it and let each other finish their sentences. That helps. The second thing, or a second thing, that can cause pretty big conflict is when you just disagree on how to go about something or something that has occurred. You disagree on it, and you just can't seem to come to terms. That's a challenging place, And there's a tool that we've used to deal with that too. And I'll call that I'll call it a level up tool or an appeal up tool. And here's what I mean. I'll use a work example. I use it at work all the time, and actually I had to answer an interview question using this tool. I had applied for a role in which I was going to have 2 bosses for a period of time, which is double fun, right? It's hard to have 1 boss. It's even harder to have 2. And in the middle of the interview, they set up a hypothetical situation. They said, we're going to, let's say the 3 of us are going to Chicago. We're driving. We don't have the budget for a plane. We're driving there. And the first boss said, I want to go this route. And the second one says, I want to go this route. And we're really angry with each other about that. And you have to solve this problem. What are you going to do? And I began to talk, and one of them cut me off immediately and says, okay, you're trying to get us to come to a place where we can move in toward a central ground based on each other's feelings or whatever. And that's not going to happen. We're just letting you know right now, we're not going to agree unless you give us some reason why we need to. And so I thought that through, and I took a different tact then. I asked a question I hadn't asked yet is, why are we going to Chicago? And they said, well, it's because there's a meeting convention. Okay, when do we need to be there? And they said, well, we need to be there by the end of today. We're traveling from Atlanta. That's a 10-hour drive. We need to be there today, and as quickly as possible today, because we have to meet some other people and we have to plan for tomorrow morning. We're leading off the convention tomorrow morning. So I asked this: which path? Oh, and I asked, why do you care about going this path and this path? And the one who wanted to go the left path says, well, I like the mountain ranges. I like going through the mountains. And the other one said, well, I like the highway route. I just like that better. And that was their reason for disagreeing. So I asked, which path is going to get us to Chicago faster? And they both said, well, the highway will get us there faster. And I said, if that's the higher level need, that's the way we need to go. And they said, you're hired. That's the tool. It's a level up tool. When you just can't agree with something, if you have some higher level principles that you have already agreed to, or promises that you've already agreed to in your relationship, sometimes you have to appeal up to those so that you can find out how to work through this situation. Which, if Claire is feeling one way, I'm feeling another about a decision, what decision can we make that will best accomplish some higher level promise or principle that we already are living by? In a work situation, you have a job contract and you have corporate values. In a marriage, ideally, you have wedding vows and you have common life values. Let's talk about wedding vows. So what are some things that are in a wedding vow, traditionally?
Well, the traditional wedding vows have, to love, honor, cherish, in sickness and in health, and poverty and in wealth, until death do you part, forsaking all others,
That's
all that
right.
kind of stuff.
That's right. Why? Why are they in there? I mean, why make these promises? We're feeling really great at our wedding. We're all feeling very loving toward each other, and we know that every minute for the next 50 years, we're going to feel that way.
Well, I think those vows are based on the knowledge from most people that there are times when you just don't feel like it.
Right.
You just don't feel like loving the person, maybe.
Yeah.
Certainly not liking them.
Yes, we all have days like that. I might have a bad day. Something bad might be happening to me at work, or I got 4 flat tires or whatever, and so I'm just not feeling that loving toward Claire, and she has some need, and I'm just missing it because I don't really feel loving about anything today.
At least not love in the sense of all the, rainbows and kisses and warm fuzzies.
Yes, right. Commitment, yes, but that, no. Or maybe she's done something that's upset me, and so I'm not feeling like doing right by her today. So there's a lot of reasons I could feel like not doing some of the things I promised to do in that wedding vow. The very reason for those vows is to keep us doing what we promised to each other.
True.
So that way, when someone is maybe not forsaking all others, or not honoring us, maybe making fun of the other person in public, and the other person is really upset about that, and you might say, well, you're just being very insensitive, and we can't agree to it. Let's say I'm doing that to Claire. I'm making fun of her. I've never done that, but I'm making fun of her in some way in a public place. She could appeal. She could say, my feelings are hurt. And that should help. I should hear that. But let's say I don't. She can appeal up to, you made a promise to always honor me, and you're not honoring me with that behavior. Suddenly that calls me to task, and she's saying basically, did you commit perjury that day, or did you mean it? Like when we were kids and we want a pet.
Please, can I keep him? I will feed him, I'll give him water, I'll give him love, and I'll clip his claws and empty his nasty litter box, and I'll brush him because he has nasty fur, and I'll do whatever it takes to keep the poor kitty.
And our parents know good and well, probably they're going to miss on this sometimes, but they're hoping this will be a growth experience, and they're going to work with us so that we can learn to keep our promises. That's part of why they let us have that pet, knowing that that's going to be a growth experience. So that's something we can do. That's the wedding vow. Another thing we can do is to appeal to shared values. It's very important that when you get together with someone in a marriage or company, that you share values, because that's going to hold you together during times of major disagreement. And it's going to reduce the number of disagreements you have, quite frankly, if you're living on the same values. We share Christian principles. We agreed that love is not just a feeling, that there are feelings of love, but it's a commitment. It's something you do for another person. We believed in telling the truth. I mean, we knew the Ten Commandments, right? Don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat each other. We knew that we both believed those things as foundational values. And we also knew that Jesus taught us the highest value, to do to others as you would want done for you. We knew that that was important to both of us. So when we get in a major argument and we just are either can't disagree on something or can't agree on something, or somebody's really hurt somebody and they're not seeing it, that gives us something to take it up to that's not personal. We don't, you this, you that. We could go immediately to, would you want me to do that to you? And suddenly we're talking at a higher level value that I can understand and see. So those are two tools that you can use if you're having serious disagreements. One is to stop and listen and really allow each other the full to say what they're trying to say. And in fact, sometimes in the heated argument, you may let them say it a few times, because they may say something kind of wrong and say, oh, I'm sorry, let me say that a different way, and give them some grace. We call that a redo, where it's okay.
Yeah, sometimes you're processing your feelings and your thoughts and what you're trying to say, and it doesn't always come out exactly right the first time. So give your partner grace.
Yeah, and yes, and allowing them to finish their statement will actually help with that, because usually what happens is you're trying to cut them off and they're trying to finish what they're saying, and that's when it comes out wrong.
Yeah, you pause to take a breath, and they finish your sentence or your thought for you, and it's not the way that you intended to finish the thought or the sentence at all.
Yeah, and the second is the appeal up. When you're having something you just can't agree on, can you appeal up to something that you have already agreed on, which is our promises that we made to each other, or values that we were both living by? That's our recommendation. Now, if you feel like you're in a relationship where you're in a marriage and you did not make any vows to each other, it's never too late to sit down and decide, okay, we've kind of known each other for a while, we know what where our feelings take us. What can we promise each other so that we know our marriage will stay together in those moments when our feelings are telling us to do things that are very illogical? So just to give you some motivation there.
Yeah, working through conflict, finding ways to resolve conflict really builds and strengthens your relationship.
Yeah. So it's never too late to sit down and decide on some promises you can make to each other. And it's also never too late to sit down and write down a set of values that you agree on. Companies do this all the time. They make a new mission statement and they write out their shared values so that they can survive long term. And that's what we're recommending to you.
Families can do that as well.
Absolutely. All right, hope that was useful to you. If you have any questions about anything that we just said, you can comment below or connect with us directly. We'll be glad to talk it over with you.